agreed to ask the questions at this debate. You'll notice to my right, there's an empty chair. Unfortunately, the Republican candidate has decided not to appear. He notified Precinct 300, which put together this debate just a few days ago, that he would not be attending, although he said that he had notified on public media, on social media, that he would not be doing it. But an official denial was only received a few days ago. There were a couple of reasons why he did not want to do it. He didn't like the choice of moderators. There were several offered. He didn't like any of them. He was given a choice to pick his own moderator. He refused. Now, I want to make sure I get this right because I don't want to misquote. This was given to me that he refuses to debate the Republican, but on the Democrat ticket, Valerie Schultz. He claimed that he does not trust her and due to slandered perceptions. Now, this is unfortunate because the debate gives both candidates the ability to make sure that they can get their concerns out during a debate. This is the ultimate way to do this. Unfortunately, that's not what's happening today. So, due to the last minute refusal to debate, apparently Precinct 300 Republican Committee went back to the Democrat candidate and said, do you still want to go on? Because this has been advertised 4 weeks. WCHE has agreed to host it. Valerie Schultz has said she wants it to go on. Apparently there's no other choice. Steve Jones will not be your candidate for the Republicans. At this point in time, I'm going to turn this over to the moderator, Megan DeGarry. She will carry it from here until the end when I will close out this debate. Thank you for watching this Honeybrook Township Supervisor debate.
Thank you. I'd like to ask our candidate that's here, Valerie Schultz, to make her opening statement, please.
Thank you, Megan. Good morning, everyone. I'm excited to be here today to discuss the policies that I would like to address when I'm elected supervisor. And I'd also like to help residents from Honeybrook Township to get to know me a little better. I've been a 24-year resident of Honeybrook Township and a mother to 2 grown children who were educated in the Twin Valley schools. And in fact, one of them just got married a few weeks ago. I grew up in a small rural community in Luzerne County, just 2 hours north of here. And I'm passionate about keeping our community rural, affordable, and safe. I'm currently serving as an elected auditor for Honeybrook Township and was elected as a Republican committee person for Precinct 300 last year. I've held many leadership positions throughout my career as a toxicologist, and I've handled multi-million-dollar budgets in my career as well. I've been asked by many residents, why exactly do you want to be a Honeybrook Township supervisor? The answer is clear. This is my home. I love my community. I plan on retiring here. And I would love to have my future grandchildren come visit me here and maybe someday even live here, God willing. As Barry said, I am a registered Republican who lost the Republican primary by just 20 votes. But I won the Democrat and the primary vote. I have widespread bipartisan support because of the issues I would like to address as supervisor. These are primarily nonpartisan issues, which are responsible fiscal management, safety, and preservation of open space.
Thank you, Valerie. I would like to open and do our first question. I would like to ask you about fiscal responsibility. Do you see problems with spending at the township? What would be your solutions? The claim has been that they have a balanced budget. What are your concerns?
Thanks, Megan. Yes, the balance is in fact, the budget is in fact balanced currently, but our spending is not. The township budget is developed based on what is coming into the township. And currently, the way the budget is used in Honeybrook Township, we are underestimating the revenue and overestimating the expenses. And in fact, by the end of the year, every single year, we project a deficit. It's not really being enabled to use as a good tool to see where we're at throughout the year and determine if unexpected expenses arise. Can we, in fact, afford to put those those expenses forward? I'd like to use an example of what I consider some of the frivolous expenses which I think need to be curtailed, and also what I think is some lack of project oversight within the township as well. So one of the frivolous examples of an expense that I'd like to put forward is the fact that we recently put forward $70,000 of a new audio-visual system and approximately $30,000 for three 70-inch flat-screen TVs, which are primarily used just to view the agenda during a meeting. And one of them has yet to be able to make it through most of the meetings without failing. I also think we need better management of projects and oversight to reduce the unnecessary expenses. A perfect example is the skate park. With better long-term planning, we could have prevented water retention underneath the skate park that is damaging the concrete and making very substantial cracks and heaving. And we could have better predicted the impact on the reduction of parking by putting in the skate park, which now is resulting in the Little League going to Morgantown to play baseball, and also having to redo the park at taxpayer expense. We need a supervisor who serves as a leader. Currently, our Board of Supervisors appears to defer to the manager when ultimately the accountability sits with the supervisors. So therefore, I think we could reduce some of the spending by better project oversight. Thank you.
Thank you, Valerie. Our next question is going to be about safety. You have spoken about issues with safety. What are your concerns about safety in our township? You have also spoken about getting a police force, and how do you expect to pay for that?
Since the Township Police Department was disbanded in 2005, there have been hypodermic needles that have been found in Humble Park, along with the destruction of park facilities. Cars have been broken into in the township, theft, and most recently, there have been arrests for sexual assault of minors. In addition, we see an increase in traffic incidents and accidents as cars go faster through town, compromising the safety of residents. According to the state police, we have one officer that's assigned to Honeybrook Township and West Napemeal Township. That is one trooper for approximately 10,000 residents. This is leading to longer response times when we need this police support. Now, keep in mind the average is generally 2 officers for every 1,000 residents. I believe we should look for ways to improve community safety by looking at available options such as contracting police officers, which we've gotten quotes in the past are generally around $200,000 a year for one full-time officer, or regionalizing with other local departments just to supplement state police coverage. We should consider the options not by raising taxes, but by rationalizing how each option could fit within our current budget.
Thank you, Valerie. Our third question today will be about overdevelopment and the impact on infrastructure. You have voiced concerns about overdevelopment and the impact on our infrastructure in Honeybrook Township. What are your concerns and how do you propose they are addressed?
First, I would like to point out, depending on where you're at in the township, you may not think it's overdeveloped until you get onto the roadways and you see the increasing traffic that we're facing, the roads that are crumbling, the sewer system that is getting strained, and even the electrical system, which some have claimed is getting strained. The roads are showing signs of breakdown from this increasing traffic, and the sewer lines are reaching a capacity. 2 years, I will say, we've updated our housing ordinance for the township, and that showed to be more permissive to developers. We need to hold developers accountable for their impact on the infrastructure, and we need to stop providing approval for variances from the housing requirements in these developments. Nearly every large development in the last 4 years has received approval for a variance from the building requirements in our township. This enables the developers to pack much more densely into these developments, and therefore it impacts on our community and the infrastructure at large.
Thank you. Now I would like to ask you about environmental concerns. What are your immediate environmental concerns in Honeybrook Township?
So recently, Carnarvon Township passed an ordinance that protects residents from the environmental hazards associated with co-digesters. Co-digestion is the process where food waste and animal waste is combined for the purpose of producing methane, a renewable energy source. Unfortunately, there are hazardous byproducts that are produced from this process that can get into our drinking water and food supply and impact more significantly on our younger population, such as children. While Carnarvon Township has protected its residents by passing this ordinance, Honeybrook does not have the same protections in place. And in fact, there are no state regulations that put guardrails around its use at this time. So that's why local municipalities need to step up. I have asked the township supervisors to hurry to put such an ordinance in place, and there has been no action to date. As supervisor, I would work with the board to draft similar protections as we're seeing in Carnarvon Township, so that co-digesters do not come to Honeybrook Township and compromise our community, our children, our water, or our food supplies.
Thank you. Our fifth question is about transparency and accountability. It's the most overused term in politics. What is not transparent about the current administration?
If I can sum up the attitude of the current Board of Supervisors to residents with one word, it would be disdain. This is shown by their refusal to answer even the simplest question at a township supervisor board meeting. Just watch the supervisors meeting on Honeybrook Fresh Air on YouTube to see how residents are treated who voice simple questions or voice concerns. We are only one of very few townships with no newsletter, no workshops, town halls, and questions at supervisors' meetings are limited to a 3-minute time period at the beginning of the meeting before any items are discussed. Information that used to be provided to the public, such as employee salaries at the beginning of every year, are now having to be requested through right-to-know requests. When one resident came to a supervisors meeting a number of months ago to ask for the supervisors to reach out to PennDOT so that Cambridge Road could be repaired, because a lot of the Amish were saying they were even having horses that were injured because of the large potholes. One of the supervisors said, "What exactly do you expect me to do?" Well, the answer is we want our Board of Supervisors to be the residents' advocate. After a great deal of frustration that was expressed by residents, the supervisors reached out to Representative Dan Williams' office, and the potholes were repaired. Yes, it's not a long-term solution, but why did it take so much frustration on the part of residents to get the supervisors to act? I want residents to be reassured that issues or concerns won't get ignored if I'm elected supervisor, and they won't be dismissed, which is what I've heard from too many residents to date. My opponent has said that my questions at supervisors' meetings are asked to make them feel stupid. That is sad that the board would view my well-intentioned questions on ordinances, budgets, and other agenda items as attacked, because that's not what they're meant for. Our township needs supervisors who are leaders who respectfully address questions and concerns. This is the people's government. Supervisors are bestowed with the privilege of representing residents. How can they represent us if they don't listen to us? I also think that residents should be allowed to complete an annual performance review for supervisors and employees. Feedback is important to hold everyone accountable.
Thank you, Valerie. Now what we're going to do is we've asked some of the residents to send in questions, and I'll read the questions for you and you can answer them, please. The first question is, how do you see the current board members and yourself working together if you are elected? Compare this to how you see yourself working with the current board if your opponent is elected.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank all the residents who submitted questions. I saw them. They were fantastic questions. I would like to find common ground if I'm elected and be able to work from there. For example, we both agree that the land preservation program is a good thing. Where we differ is I would like to see a clear endpoint to this program with clear proposal for milestones for ending the program. It's clear that there are many things that I don't align on with the current Board of Supervisors. And on those issues, I will present an alternative viewpoint because that's important as well. I aim to discuss my views with them in a respectful manner and hope they will keep an open mind and consider my proposals. If my opponent wins, I would continue to stay engaged and provide input at the meetings to ensure that the board is keeping the residents' best interest in mind.
Thank you. Question 2 is, what plans do you have to unite our township and show the residents that it is okay to approach their local government with thoughts, ideas, and comments? Another similar question was that many residents don't feel they have a voice and are at times rudely dismissed for asking questions and are only given 3 minutes to talk. What will you do as a supervisor to support the community having a voice in our township?
I would like to reinstitute workshops, which we've had for a number of years on a regular basis, not on an as-needed basis. These have been extremely important to get more detailed information from the supervisors about the background on items that they vote on at supervisors' meetings. Town hall meetings have also been important to gain a lot of input from the residents and hear what their concerns are. And those were important to hold on a quarterly basis. And furthermore, township newsletters are important to make sure that everyone, including the Amish, are very well informed of what's going on. I will ensure that I am respectful to residents' comments and questions at meetings and on social media. I will also do my best to provide residents with an answer to a question or a resolution to a concern. Currently, I've heard a lot of residents as I've been campaigning tell me that they voice a concern or an issue and there's never any follow-up. So I want residents to know that their voice matters.
Thank you. The current projections in township spending shows we are reaching a spending threshold. What ideas do you have to cut back on spending?
Well, as I mentioned before, I think I'd like to see a budget that is more in line with how most budgets are used as a tool where there's an accurate projection of expenditures and revenue. I would also like to be more engaged with the expenditures in the township and provide input where they're not absolutely necessary, and suggest options for, instead of replacing equipment, repairing it, or possibly purchasing at a lower cost. Now, granted, these are roles for the township manager, but I think, as I said before, township supervisors have the ultimate accountability. And as I mentioned previously, better project oversight and long-term planning could help reduce unnecessary expenditures.
Thank you. The next question is, what is the taxpayer money being spent on specifically, and how much for each listing?
Well, I can mention to you the 5 general areas where we see the highest growth in expenses. They're public works staff costs, public safety, which is a very nebulous area, and it's hard to really determine what fits into that category. Public works equipment, community contributions, and administrative staff costs. I can tell you for public works staff costs, the township did hire an additional person a few years ago that was planned to replace Don Johnson when he retires at the end of the year. And public safety, as I said, is a very large catch-all category, but it does include code enforcement, which you can understand from the new construction that would be increased. But from what I've seen, there also appears to be an increase in code enforcement for small businesses and residents. There was also a new administrative assistant hired a few years ago, and 3 years ago, we gave a $40,000 raise to our township manager after he was on the job for 10 months.
Thank you. In 2022, it was brought to light that the Planning Commission and Board of Supervisors were going to allow development within a high-quality wetland buffer. This would violate PA Chapter 93 water quality standards. What practices or plans would you implement to ensure this would never happen again?
I mentioned to the board back in 2021 that one of the zoning board members had indicated to me that the special exception criteria needed to be revised with more defined requirements, and this applies to the variance criteria as well. This would ensure that applicants who are requesting to build in our township have to provide the appropriate information before they can build in our township. Sometimes the requirements are so vague that the developers get away with not really providing us the adequate information. It also would be helpful to utilize some of the experts in environmental science that we have in our community to make sure we can identify environmentally sensitive areas throughout the township and possibly examine whether zoning needs to be reassessed to help protect those areas.
Thank you. Our next question is, how many people have to die before a light is placed at an intersection?
Well, I'm assuming that the person asking this question was referring to our 2 most dangerous intersections in our township, which are currently at Chestnut Tree Road and 322 and Burdell and 322. The short answer is that if you encounter any line of sight or traffic issues, please report that intersection to PennDOT. No one should have to die before action has been taken. PennDOT does have an online site where you can report a dangerous intersection, and I would highly suggest you follow up with the township as well. But those 2 intersections are on state roads. Secondly, I have been advocating with Representative Dan Williams' office since 2022 to get a light at Chestnut Tree Road and 322. I've seen many horrible accidents there. Most notably, I remember a few years ago, there was an accident where a car was literally cut in half. It was devastating. Unfortunately, this intersection lies at the intersection of 3 different townships. Representative Dan Williams' office was coordinating this effort with Honeybrook Township and the other 2 municipalities when Honeybrook Township told them they were negotiating with D.R. Horton to install a light there as part of their plan to build along 322. This has meant, unfortunately, that nothing has been done since that time period. When D.R. Horton came back to the Planning Committee earlier this year, I asked the Planning Committee to also place Burdell at 322 to be in scope with that development because it's such a dangerous intersection. We have not heard anything more since then.
Thank you. The next question is, why are we paying for land preservation, but so many developments seem to be built? How many farms have been developed?
This has been a very passionate topic for a number of people. And, first of all, I have to say that the land preservation program is a voluntary program. It pays generally $5,000 to $7,000 per acre for an easement to be placed on the property so that the property cannot be developed. Unfortunately, with land prices being so high in recent years, it's been more appealing to some property owners to sell to a developer than to have an easement placed on the property. I do personally think we could do a better job at promoting the program, and talks have been taking place during the land preservation meetings of how that could happen. But just remember, it is a strictly voluntary program. I also think we need to make it more lucrative to farms to continue to farm. We need to consider what they would call as a grower's market or a farmer's auction more locally. The closest growers auctions that currently exist are about a 30-minute car ride for Honeybrook. This costs the farmers a fair amount of money to travel there, get all of their produce there, and then come back. We could make it more lucrative for them to have these growers markets or growers auctions in Honeybrook Township. And we also need to make sure that farmers are educated on the funding that's available, state grants that are available, or programs that can help assist them to stay in business. It's really important as residents that we help to support these farmers so they don't want to have to sell their land to a developer.
Thank you. And our final question for today is there a magic number of residents to warrant one full-time and one part-time police officer without raising taxes?
The answer is I'm not aware that there is a magic number of residents that would trigger increased police coverage. There have been discussions going on within the Board of Supervisors since 2015 that would enhance police coverage, but unfortunately 2 out of the 3 supervisors during that time rejected every proposal that was put forward. I hope that if I'm elected, we can examine the options for enhancing police coverage that are within our current budget.
Thank you, Valerie. Now, I would like to invite you to do a closing statement since we have no more questions from the residents.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you, everyone in Honeybrook Township, for watching this debate. The residents can now see from this event today the issues that I want to address as supervisor should the voters agree with what I believe in. Again, I will be one of 3 supervisors, and supervisors enact change by majority vote. I value respect, both in person and online, to the residents, and demand transparency and accountability by your government and with open dialogue towards residents. Conversations with residents have the ability to create a better local government and a stronger community for all, not just a select few. My opponent chose not to attend this debate, which I find, quite frankly, to be a shame, especially after the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Mr. Kirk's basic premise was to engage in open dialogue and debate with people you disagree with politically in order to decrease violence and engage in the most valuable form of democracy. By not talking to the public in a televised forum and not taking questions by his own moderator, my opponent prevented residents from hearing from him on how he stands on important issues facing the township and how he will respond to viewpoints that he doesn't agree with. And most importantly, I believe he doesn't want me to clear up the misinformation that he has purposely put out there against me. I vow to work with the Board of Supervisors to the best of my abilities to ensure that residents feel heard, respected, and valued. I will be your voice. I will represent you. I want to keep your taxes low. I know that many of you are struggling financially. I want to preserve open space and ensure safety in our community. Most importantly, I want to ensure that Honeybrook remains affordable by being more fiscally responsible. My dedication to those points has never wavered, and it's well memorialized in many township meeting videos on Honeybrook Fresh Air on YouTube, no matter what my opponent claims. The actual videos simply don't lie. I hope that after the election, we can come together as a community regardless of the outcome of this election. I commit to keeping our community both rural and safe. So please remember, I am still a registered Republican on the Democrat ballot because I won the Democrat election in the primary. The reason that 48.5% of the Republican voters, as well as the majority of the Democrat voters, cast their votes for me is simple. The electors for both parties know that I am the best candidate to unify our residents and make Honeybrook a stronger, safer, and more fiscally responsible township. Please be sure to get out and vote on Tuesday, November 4th for Valerie Schultz for Honeybrook Township Supervisor. Thank you for your time.
This concludes the debate. WCHE has been very happy to be able to host this. And in full transparency, I have known candidate Valerie Schultz for about 2 years now, and I've known Steve Jones for at least 10. So I know both the candidates. And I'm very sorry that Steve didn't show up today. Perhaps there will be some opportunity to come on my radio show and talk about his stance. Maybe he'll feel better coming there. Thank you for watching this, and if you're listening to it on WCHE, thank you for taking the time to listen to it, either live or recorded, whether it be on the airwaves or on the internet. I'm Barry D. for All Politics Are Local. Thank you.